So in this video, we will have a look at why foreigners incorporate companies in Singapore. What do they do with those companies and what happens to these companies eventually? This is an interesting topic because so many foreigners incorporate companies in Singapore every year. So let's first have a look at total number of business formations in 2019 in Singapore. And this includes both foreigners promoted as well as local promoted companies. So in 2019, total 43,920 companies were registered. Number of sole proprietorship was 15,000 plus. And then there were limited liability partnership, limited partnership and public accounting firms which were very less in number. Now the sole proprietorship, partnership, limited liability partnership, limited partnership and public accounting firms are not normally registered by foreigners. For foreigners, the main vehicle or the main business entity type is companies. So what in this presentation we are looking at is this number. So out of this 43,920 companies, 100% foreigner owned were 18,007. So the main topic of this video is what exactly these 100% foreigner owned companies are promoted for, what do they do and how do they operate. So where do these foreigners come from? Who are opening these companies? So if you look at this chart, the primarily three countries from where these foreigners come for incorporating company in Singapore are from China, Malaysia and India. These three companies together account for 60% foreigners incorporation in Singapore. Out of this, China is number one, followed by Malaysia and then India. You will also notice that there is a significant presence of Singapore's main trading partners over here. So moving on to next, what is the sectoral breakup of formation of these companies by foreigners? So these are the sectors in which these new formations by foreigners are primarily happening. So you will notice that some of the capital intensive businesses like hotel industry or construction or manufacturing are significantly low here. They are all clubbed under the category others. Primarily the companies that they form are typically in professional, scientific and technical activities, wholesale trade and information and communications sector. If you see the pie chart, this will look like this. So the top three activities or top three sectors cover almost 75% of these formations. You will also see in this case that there is some skewness in terms of sectors depending upon the country from which the promoter is coming. For example, promoters coming from India will typically be in information technology and communications, and promoters coming from China mostly will be concentrating on wholesale trade or electronic commerce. So what is the main purpose or the reason of setting up a company in Singapore? So the top 5 reasons that appear in people's response are as follows. The first and the number one is tax savings, because Singapore offers a low corporate tax rate, and in addition to that, for first few years companies also get tax savings in terms of reduced tax rate. So this is the number one purpose why people incorporate a company in Singapore. Like people can achieve growth in Southeast Asia for their business. So opening up a company according to them opens up the market in the nearby region like Indonesia, Malaysia, Vietnam, Thailand and Cambodia. Then the third reason was the flexibility in foreign currency dealings. So the Southeast Asia region and primarily countries like India and Bangladesh, Pakistan and China, they have a bit of rigidity in foreign currency dealing. So if you have to transfer money in foreign currencies, you will have to take permissions and approvals from various authorities. Opening up a company in Singapore in some way avoids that bureaucracy or red tapeism, and business transactions can be done very fast. Then the next reason cited by people was the international presence, and this was primarily quoted by many startups, especially in IT and related sectors, They wanted to incorporate a company in Singapore so that their company gets an image that it is present in multiple countries, and Singapore was the best choice for them. And lastly, in some cases, people were planning to relocate their business from their home country to Singapore with an idea to have a better standard of living and a comfortable business atmosphere. Now, let's have a look on foreigners owned companies formed in 2019 by share capital breakup. So, only 0.9% of the companies formed by foreigners were with more than $500,000 capital, whereas the companies formed with 100,000 Singapore dollars to 500,000 Singapore dollars capital were 2.2%, and 10,000 to $100,000 Singapore dollar capital companies were 7.7%, whereas almost 90% of the companies were incorporated with less than 10,000 Singapore dollar capital. So as you can see, the extent of SME formation in this sector by foreigners is very high. Now, how these companies are run, because if foreigner is incorporating a company, most likely he is going to be staying in his home country. So how do they run these companies? So 83% of the people will continue running this company from overseas, whereas only in 17% of the cases, the promoter or the key person will relocate to Singapore, and typically he will apply for employment pass. So running from overseas means these companies are not usually run with a full steam or with full power. They typically continue to act as a secondary company to the promoter's main business in his home country. And this will normally last for first 2 or 3 years. And after those 2 or 3 years, these companies will normally tend to take a prominent shape in the business plan of the promoter. There are some cases where promoter continues to run the companies from overseas, but at the same time he employs some key people in Singapore also. So what happens to all these companies over a period of time? So based on our information, 5% of these companies, so 5% of the companies incorporated will be closed after first year of operations. This typically happens because the promoter has changed his plan, or he finds that the company is not suitable, or there might be some other personal reasons. In all, 20% of the companies will get closed after 3 years of operations or within first 3 years. And this is again the same reason, it's just that it is an extended period of time. Only 50% of the companies will operate for more than 5 years, whereas the companies will be operational for more than 10 years. The percentage is even less at 20%. So if you see, this typically follows the SME formation and cessation statistics, where close to 20 to 30% of the companies will close in first 3-4 years of operations, and only 10 to 20% companies will last for more than 10 years. But the good thing is that incorporating, running and closing a Singapore company is not a costly affair. So if you have the business plan to do that, you should definitely give it a try. So in summary, foreigners typically register companies in Singapore which are kind of SMEs, and their idea typically is first to try for a couple of years and then to grow as the business itself will lead them forward. Individual shareholding is a prominent one, and the size typically remains to be small.
Thank you for watching this video. This video was brought to you by Epica Consulting Singapore. Subscribe to our channel today to get notified when new videos are posted.